Listen to me very carefully, because this might be the moment where everything quietly begins to change. You are not tired because your life is too full. You are tired because your days are too empty of meaning. You are tired because almost everything you do requires you to disconnect from yourself. You move fast but feel nothing. You get things done but feel unseen. You keep going, but deep down, you know you stopped arriving a long time ago. Most people are not living. They are reliving. Same thoughts, same pace, same distractions dressed in new packaging. Different days, same loop. And the worst part is not the exhaustion. It's the dullness. The kind of dull that makes you forget what it feels like to care, to feel your own heartbeat, to enjoy your own company, to actually want the life you're waking up to. You tell yourself you're just busy, but busyness without presence is not progress. It's just avoidance in disguise. There's nothing wrong with your ambition. What's missing is your alignment. You've built a schedule, but you lost your rhythm. You've built systems, but you lost your soul. And now you wonder why it all feels heavy. You wonder why rest doesn't work, why even joy feels like effort. It's because you've been running on autopilot. You've been faithful to a rhythm that no longer belongs to you. And you don't need a breakdown to wake up. You just need to pause long enough to ask if what you're repeating is still worth repeating. That's why this is not about change. This is about return. A return to clarity, to presence, to inner space, to you. And that return starts with a choice so small, most people overlook it. 1 week, 3 habits, not to fix your life, but to hear it again, to feel it again, to come back to the part of you that doesn't want louder or faster, but deeper and truer. The part that's still alive under all the noise. This is not a challenge, it's a reset. Not for your calendar, but for your core. You won't need to wake up earlier or grind harder. You'll need to be still long enough to hear your own direction again. The one that gets drowned out by algorithms and expectations. 7 days, 3 habits, that's the doorway. And once you step through it, nothing outside has to change for everything inside to shift. There is a difference between being awake and being present. You can open your eyes at 6 a.m. and still be numb until noon. You can move through your whole day and never actually arrive. Most people don't realize how much noise they've normalized. The notifications, the headlines, the pressure to respond before you've had time to breathe. They wake up and reach for their phones like oxygen. They scroll through other people's lives before they even check in with their own. And without knowing it, they lose the quiet before they ever had a chance to hear it. But there is a simple way to reclaim yourself. One small shift that takes no money, no app, no guru, just your body, your breath, your attention, and a little time. It's called walking in silence. Every morning, no phone, no podcast, no background noise, just you and the world as it is. Not the curated digital version, not the schedule waiting to consume you, just the real world that still exists without a screen. At first, it will feel strange. You'll notice how uncomfortable silence has become. You'll feel the pull to distract yourself, to fill the space with sound or thought. But if you resist that urge, something else begins to happen. You start to hear things again, not just the birds or the wind or the quiet hum of the city waking up. You start to hear yourself. The version of you that doesn't need to perform. The part that simply observes, notices, receives. That voice has been drowned out by everything you thought was urgent. But in the silence, it returns. This kind of walk is not about exercise. It's about recalibration. It's a daily reset of your nervous system, a way to come back to your body before the world tells it what to fear. It clears the fog, it slows the racing, and most importantly, it gives your mind space to sort what actually matters from what's just noise. And we underestimate what that space can do. In that 20 or 30 minutes of quiet movement, your thoughts begin to align. Ideas surface, emotions settle, and most of all, presence returns. Presence is not passive. It's one of the most powerful mental states a person can carry. When you are present, you stop reacting, You start choosing. You begin to see clearly where you've been running on autopilot, where you've been saying yes out of guilt, where you've been hiding behind productivity because you're too afraid to feel stillness. When you are present, you become honest, not just with others, but with yourself. And that honesty is what gives your life direction again. The reason this habit matters so much is because it creates a boundary between who you are and what the world tries to make you. When you walk in silence before the day begins, you remind yourself that your mind belongs to you, that your attention is yours to direct, that your mood is not owned by the algorithm, that before you respond to the needs of others, you will first respond to your own soul. That is not selfish, that is structure. That is the kind of self-leadership no app can give you. If you try this for 7 days, you will feel the difference, not just in your mood, but in your energy. You will stop starting your days from stress. You will stop bracing yourself before the world even speaks. Instead, you will begin grounded with clarity, with control, with the rhythm that comes from inside, not from expectation. And that one shift can ripple into everything else. You might not be able to control how the day unfolds, but you can choose how you enter it. You can choose to begin with silence instead of chaos, with awareness instead of avoidance. And when you do, you stop chasing presence. You start living in it. The problem isn't that you don't have answers. It's that you've stopped asking better questions. Somewhere along the way, life convinced you that moving forward meant pushing through. That maturity meant ignoring the noise inside. That strength meant knowing without reflecting. But the truth is, you can be productive and still be lost. You can show up every day and still not know why. And if you never pause to check in, you will confuse repetition for clarity. Asking yourself 3 honest questions each day is not about journaling. It's about re-entering your own life. It's about pausing long enough to face yourself without judgment, without pretending, without explaining away what's uncomfortable. These questions are not formulas. They are keys, not to fix you, but to unlock the thoughts you've buried because you've been too busy to feel. You do not have to write a novel. You do not have to be poetic. All you have to do is show up on the page with honesty. 1 minute of truth is more powerful than an hour of planning, because clarity doesn't come from overthinking, it comes from listening. The real kind, the kind that doesn't filter what it finds, the kind that sits in silence long enough to let something real surface. What kind of questions should you ask? Ones that make you stop avoiding. Questions like, what am I pretending not to know? What emotion am I carrying that no longer belongs here? What would I do today if I believed I deserved peace? You can change the words. The power is not in the phrasing, it's in the confrontation. Most people don't grow because they never question what's been silently shaping them. This habit works because the brain craves direction, but it will follow whatever voice speaks with the most consistency. And if you never question that voice, you will keep obeying it, even if it's outdated, even if it's unkind. Questions interrupt that loop. They break the pattern. They create space for a new thought. And sometimes that's all it takes to shift the entire day. One new thought that reminds you you're not a machine, you're a person. And people need alignment more than efficiency. Writing the answers down makes them tangible. It brings you awareness out of the cloud and onto the page. It shows you what's been circling in your head in a way you can actually hold. And when you look at that paper, you will notice patterns. You will see the repeated fears, the constant pressures, the inner critic that shows up with the same voice every time. That recognition is not weakness, it's clarity. And clarity is what gives you back your power. But there's something else. When you do this habit every day for a week, something subtle begins to change. You stop lying to yourself so easily. You stop rushing into reaction. You pause. You remember. You choose. That 1 minute of truth begins to stretch into the rest of your life. You say no with less guilt. You speak up with less hesitation. You forgive yourself without asking permission. Because you are finally listening to the part of you that has always known. And that's the real point. Not to be right, not to be healed in 7 days, but to reconnect, to get back into relationship with yourself. Most people ask others for answers before they ever ask their own soul. And that's why they stay confused. They are outsourcing direction to voices that don't live in their body. But when you start listening inward, you begin to remember what you need, what you feel, what you're capable of. 3 questions every day. Not to impress anyone, not to track progress, but to get honest. Because honesty is where reinvention begins. Not in doing more, not in learning more, in seeing yourself again, clearly, kindly, and without interruption. There is a kind of peace that only comes when your mind and your body are in the same place. But for most people, that rarely happens. Their body is in the room, but their thoughts are in the past. Their eyes are looking forward, but their spirit is somewhere behind. They are always moving, always checking, always reaching, but they are never really here. And after a while, that disconnection becomes normal. They get used to going through life like background noise. That is why this 3rd habit matters. It is not loud, it is not impressive, but it is powerful. Every day for the next 7 days, choose one task and give it your full presence. Not your multitasking version, not your half-listening self, the real you, the one that doesn't need to rush or perform. It can be anything. Washing dishes, walking the dog, drinking your coffee, talking to your child. You don't have to change what you do. You only have to change how fully you are inside it. When you do something with your whole attention, it becomes sacred. Not because of the task, but because of the presence inside it, the way you breathe through it, the way your senses come alive, the way your thoughts quiet down without being forced. Most people think peace comes from doing less, but it actually comes from being more present in what you already do. You don't need more time. You need more connection to time. Presence is not something you earn. It is something you choose. It is the decision to stop splitting yourself between 100 things and to start giving your full weight to one thing at a time. And when you do that, you become whole again. You stop leaking energy through distractions. You stop breaking your focus into pieces. You begin to remember what it feels like to be rooted, anchored, here. The reason this habit works is because it teaches your nervous system safety. When you are fully present, your body feels it, your breathing slows, your mind stops scanning, your spirit no longer feels like it has to fight for space. That one moment of deep presence can reset your internal rhythm more than an hour of mindless rest, because it tells your whole being you are safe, you are allowed to be. You do not need to escape this moment. You can actually live in it. And something else happens too. When you practice full presence, you notice how rare it is. You notice how many moments you usually miss, how often you rush through your own life without tasting it, how you reach the end of your day and wonder where the hours went. But when you are present, you do not just measure time, you inhabit it, you stretch it, you create depth in ordinary things. And in that depth, your soul breathes again. You don't need to meditate for an hour or sit in silence for days. You just need to come back to what you are doing right now, fully, not halfway, not with guilt, but with kindness, with attention, with weight. That is where transformation begins. Not in the big leap, but in the steady return to yourself. Try it for 7 days. Pick one thing each day and give it everything. It will feel strange at first. You will catch yourself drifting, but don't judge it, just return. That return is the practice, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes. You will begin to crave presence the way you used to crave escape, because you will remember what it feels like to be alive inside your own life. That is the hidden gift of this habit. Not that it changes the task, but that it changes you in the task. And once you feel that kind of grounded power, you will not want to go back to a distracted life. You will want more of you in everything you do. You might be tempted to see all of this as a system, as a way to become more efficient, as a trick to get more done. But listen carefully, this is not about productivity, it never was. Productivity is just another word we use to make exhaustion sound noble. Another way to measure our worth by how much we output before we burn out. But what if the point was never to do more? What if it was to become more? That is the quiet difference in this path. It does not ask you to optimize, it asks you to realign. You are not here to be more impressive, you are here to be more true. You are not here to squeeze your schedule tighter. You are here to loosen the grip on the life that no longer breathes. Because somewhere along the way, we started confusing movement with progress. We started chasing momentum without checking direction. We got so busy climbing the ladder that we forgot to ask if it's leaning against the right wall. These habits are not about speeding up. They're about slowing down in the right places. They're not meant to fix what's broken. They're meant to reveal what's been buried. Your energy, your clarity, your presence. These are not traits of high performers. They are signs of people who have remembered who they are. And when you remember who you are, you stop performing. You start aligning. You stop pushing yourself through things that no longer fit. You start choosing what actually honors your wholeness. The reason this reset works is because it disrupts the autopilot. It interrupts the cycle that told you to measure your value by how much you check off before noon. You were not born to hustle. You were born to live with intention. That does not mean you stop working. It means your work begins to come from a deeper place. A place that is rooted, not rushed, focused, not frantic, alive, not just awake. And when you begin to move from that place, everything changes. Your relationships soften. Your decisions clarify. Your stress becomes information, not identity. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to build instead of chase. And slowly your life starts to feel like yours again. Not because you accomplished more, but because you reclaimed the space within it. That's the part people overlook. They think change comes from adding something. But real transformation often starts with subtraction, removing the noise, the pressure, the shame, the urgency that keeps you spinning. These habits pull you out of that spin. They bring you back to the ground, to the breath, to the you beneath all the expectations. And when you return to that version of you, even for a moment, you realize something powerful. You never needed to be more. You just needed to be more here. So don't use these habits to impress anyone. Don't use them to upgrade your hustle. Use them to reconnect. Use them to listen. Use them to feel what you've been too busy to feel. Because the truth is, life doesn't reward speed. It rewards alignment. And alignment comes when your actions stop coming from fear and start coming from truth. This is not about being better. It's about being whole, not about adding more goals, but about living with less noise. And when you understand that, you stop treating yourself like a project. You start treating yourself like a person again. A person who deserves presence, who deserves rest, who deserves a rhythm that honors your humanity instead of constantly extracting from it. 1 week, that's all you need, not to be more productive, but to remember what it feels like to be fully alive. Most people wait for clarity like it's a reward. Like one day life will pause, the noise will stop, and the path will appear in perfect light. But clarity doesn't come from waiting. It comes from walking, from choosing, from showing up to your own life before it makes sense. And that's what this week is really about. Not changing everything, not fixing the past, but learning how to return to yourself in small but powerful ways. You do not need another plan. You need a pause. You need space between the noise. A reset that does not ask you to become someone new, but allows you to become who you were before the pressure, before the speed, before the world taught you to perform instead of feel. In 7 days, your whole life won't look different, but the way you look at it will. And that difference will ripple into every decision, every breath, every moment. These habits are not magic, they are mirrors. They reflect the version of you that is still present beneath the surface, the version of you that is not overwhelmed by the past or afraid of the future, the one that can stand still without feeling behind, that can choose silence without feeling disconnected, that can ask hard questions and sit with real answers. That version of you is not far away. It is simply buried under layers of urgency and distraction. And 7 days of intention is enough to begin the return. You will feel resistance. Your brain will try to talk you out of it. It will say you're too busy, too tired, too far gone. But that voice is not your enemy. It's just your habit. And like any habit, it can be unlearned. Every step you take in silence, every question you ask, every task you complete with full presence is an act of rebellion. Not against the world, but against the version of you that forgot you had a choice. And here is what matters most. You do not have to feel ready. You only have to be willing to try, willing to return, willing to believe that change does not have to be loud to be real. You can whisper your way back to life. You can rebuild slowly, gently, with rhythm instead of force. Because the goal is not to arrive faster, it is to arrive fully. So ask yourself one honest question. 7 days from now, who could I be? What would change if I gave myself that kind of space? What would come alive if I stopped surviving and started paying attention? You will never regret paying attention to your life. You will only regret the days you lived it from the outside. And if this message stirred something in you, it's not an accident. That feeling you have right now is not confusion, it's recognition. A part of you just remembered that you are still here, that you still have a choice. And that small moment of remembering might be the start of something that changes everything. So take the week, try the habits, walk in silence, ask your questions, be fully present in something ordinary, then do it again and again until your life starts to sound like you again. And if you found this helpful, stay with us. Daily 1% impact is not here to fix you. We are here to remind you that one small choice repeated with intention is enough to begin again. Not someday, but today.